Hey guys, and welcome to the Marriage Chronicles. In this edition, we want to talk about differences. Now, listen, we're not talking about the type of differences where my favorite color is green and her favorite color is pink. Or maybe you like to squeeze the toothpaste from the bottom of the tube and she likes to squeeze it from the center. What's another pretty common one, Bae?
Maybe you like to pull the tissue from the back, and I like to pull it from the front.
So there's a lot of little differences that we encounter, but we aren't talking about the more minute differences. We kind of want to focus in on the more important ones, or the ones that seem to cause turmoil and other issues in the marriage. So we're going to focus in on those, and we're going to kind of bring you guys into our marriage on a couple of the ones that we've experienced and illustrate to you guys how we've been able to use them to bring us together in lieu of pushing us apart. So we're going to go ahead and get into that right now. You ready, babe?
I'm ready.
Okay,
All right,
guys, so
let's do
we
it.
made a list so that we'll have something to kind of go by so we won't just get lost in our conversation with you guys. One of the things that we are different, one of the ways we're different is I can be very analytical at times. So that kind of, I'm very detailed in how I analyze people and how I look at situations, how I observe things. Whereas he's, not that he's surface, he's just not as, he's more practical, right? He looks at things kind of in the way that they, how they operate there, how they, how something works in that, in the time, in that moment, so to speak, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So she is very analytical when it comes to like emotions and things like that. And I feel like, with us guys, that's one thing we really struggle with, is kind of conveying how we feel. A lot of times we bottle that information in and don't really express it to our significant other, which could be pretty detrimental to a marriage. I mean, it can be very detrimental to a marriage. So, and by her being very analytical and expressive in that manner, it really helped to build me. And like when I say she's analytical, she is very analytical. So, I may be feeling a particular way, and she'll say, "Babe, what's wrong?" And I might give the classic answer, "Nothing," or "I'm
And
good."
I'm reading body language here.
Yeah, so she's reading my body, and she's like, "Nah, something's not right." Normally you blink 10 times per minute, but now you're blinking 15, or I detect elevated blood pressure levels without using any type of measuring tool or anything.
God.
Now that might be a little emphasized there or exaggerated, but it's not too far fetched for sure.
A little.
But it really has challenged me. So when we first met, I was definitely very surface. Actually, I was just really nonchalant. Yeah, I would say nonchalant was really the way that I was. I didn't really like to explore how I felt or really dig deep. And she's like a dig deep type of person. But over time, I've allowed, that aspect of her to kind of build me up to be more expressive in how I feel.
And on the counter side, I've allowed his, I'm not gonna say nonchalantness, but his more easygoing, more, relaxed personality to help me turn it down a notch. So I'm not always like trying to dig deeper into things that you don't need to read more into. It is what it is type thing. So
Yeah,
that
definitely
helps me. It balances us. It helps him go deeper when necessary, and it keeps me grounded. And I don't go too deep and dig my own, my own.
Yeah, you try to dig a 10-foot hole when it's only 3 feet worth of dirt. There's nothing else there. Like, we've hit the bottom. So instead of allowing that difference to push us away, we've actually found a medium. And certainly there are times where we don't exactly see eye to eye, but we've been able to, for the most part, allow that difference in our marriage to kind of bring clarity and bring a happy medium that works well for us.
And another thing that was written, and this is about him, he's more organized than I am. So he plans ahead. He's very intentional about how things are to be. He's practical. which means that he studies into what he is going to do before it's done. And on my end, I feel like that helps me because it teaches me discipline. It helps me become more intentional in the things that I'm doing outside of like feeling. I'm intentional about my feelings, but a lot of other things.
Okay, guys, so here are 4 things that we've been able to implement into our marriage to kind of help assist us with accepting each other's differences. Probably the most important one was just knowing that we are for each other. Like, I know without a shadow of a doubt that God created her for me. So when our differences arise, whether it be something that I disagree with her or something she disagrees with me, I know that we're equipped to work through that because God made us for each other. But if you don't have that assurance with your partner, then these differences could easily become a distraction that could push you guys further away or potentially be the demise of your marriage. So it's very, very, very important. Like, before I proposed to her, I went to God like, God, like, is she the one? Like, I wanted to make sure, because marriage is a pretty serious commitment. And even before we actually got married, I went to him again just to be sure, because again, this is a serious commitment. And once I had that peace, I knew for a fact that, this was the woman for me, and I felt pretty good moving forward. So the first thing is know for a fact that your partner is for you.
The second thing we have here is to be willing to compromise. And I think compromise has gotten a bad rep, but in this scenario, it's just being willing to allow.
I think just finding that medium between your differences.
Yeah.
And just trying to figure out how you guys can work best, because a lot of times we're on 2 different ends of the spectrum, and a marriage cannot thrive that way. You have to find some meeting ground that meets the satisfaction of you both. And you have to be willing to do that and not just think that, okay, well, this is how I feel, this is what we need to do, and vice versa. So, like she said, being willing to compromise and find that happy medium in your marriage.
And the last one, you want to elaborate on that one?
Let's get that one.
Oh.
I guess we. Well, actually, I guess we.
I'm sorry. Number 3, you got to be willing to say, I'm sorry. I understand that your preferences and your way of doing things are not the only way. So I guess it's understanding a lot of us, we were raised differently. We may have the same morals and sometimes the same values. A lot of times you marry that person who you have morals and values in common with. That doesn't necessarily mean that you were raised the same. So the way that you might do something could be totally different from the way that your spouse does it. And that's okay. It's an opportunity to learn how each person does something and then implement it or make it together, because you're making a family. So you're meshing 2 individuals and you're becoming one. So it's not taking fully on who he is or fully on who I am, but it's bringing the 2 together to make one. So
yeah, absolutely. And the last thing we wanted to cover or kind of discuss was just understanding that sometimes our differences, they're going to cause arguments. Like, it's inevitable. Your differences are going to cause arguments and disagreements. But in those moments, it's imperative that we understand that we are not in competition with one another. So if I win the argument and she loses, we both lose. Because really in marriage, you only win when both of you win. So instead of trying to compete and win out the argument against your spouse, try to understand and find a solution.
And compromise.
Yeah, and compromise, to find the best solution for you guys. And this is one thing that we kind of like to say, that marriage is not a competition, but if you should compete about anything, let it be at being the first to say, I'm sorry. So if you're going to compete, be the first one to say, I'm sorry. But like we said, when you're arguing or you're having your disagreements, just try to listen to understand and not listen to win the argument.
Or to respond.
Yeah, or to respond, right. Because if one person loses, ultimately you both lose. So these are just some things that we've been able to implement into our marriage over the years that has helped us drastically. And we hope you guys find value in it as well. And maybe you can implement it in yours also. No marriage is alike. You know, marriage is like a snowflake. Each one unique and different in its own way. But we feel like maybe these principles could help somebody else along the way. So you want to share anything else, babe?
No.
Okay. Well, we thank you guys for tuning in again to the Marriage Chronicles. We hope you found value in this video, and stay tuned for some more videos that we put out. Love you guys. Take care. And remember,
marriage is work.
Yeah, it's work, but it's worth the work. Definitely worth the work. All right, you guys take care. Peace.